Welcome to another episode of the Bhandwagon Podcast, and today it's quite timely. We've got summer coming up. It's wedding season. Everybody's going to be trying and going on all these fad diets or changing a lifestyle, or making some big decisions to try and make themselves get into that dress or suit a lot easier. And I was going through a little bit of that, and I think as your phone detects that you're looking for these kind of things, it suggests people on your algorithm, and there is only one person who I could bring on to try and help me and also help yourself. The Indian body coach, Juggy Sidhu. Well done.
Nice one, brother.
Thanks for coming down, brother.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
How are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm looking forward to this. I'm wondering what you're going to bring up on this conversation with me.
Well, let's be honest. The first bit that I said to you was like, "How you doing, bro? Come on, can you sort my the man boobs out?" Yeah, and I thought that was a pretty fresh start. I think that was a pretty honest way of going through that. And I think I was looking at your content anyway, where I see it, and the way you address certain things and certain issues is a very unique way. How did you come up with that style?
I'm really curious, man. Do you mind me asking you a question back first?
Yeah, go for it.
What was it that you picked up on that was unique to what you see out there?
I think when you look at a lot of content creators, people come into kind of two categories: passion and professionalism. And it's okay to be in both. And what I saw was your stuff being complemented in the same way, so it fitted together. Yeah. So it wasn't kind of like a botched job.
Yeah.
It was professionally done. You could see like this company, this time and money spent on it.
Yeah.
But I've got a biased eye because because we produce the content and I do it myself.
Yeah. I
sometimes don't even listen to people. I look like, oh, how's it been shot?
Yeah.
I look at, is the audio clean?
Yeah.
And then if I'm getting the message while I'm looking at them two things, then I know it's got me.
Got you, man.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. I like that. I like it. Look, from my perspective, my unique perspective on health and well-being is we're three-dimensional people. And I think most people are just told to diet harder and train more, and it just completely misses the human element in the middle. Because if we were robots and someone said to you, follow this diet, follow these calories, and exercise like this, you'd just be able to push a few buttons and it's done. But that's not how humans experience life. You've got issues that are going to come up day in, day out. Stress, worries. Think about the way that our belief systems are, our value systems are, the way we deal with emotions, the way we deal with stress. All of these things have an impact on the actions that you then take. So when I look at what I do and why it's so different to what everybody else is doing out there, is I actually focus on the human first, and then we bring in those other things to complement the human, rather than just trying to fit that person into a box. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I've seen the shift where you'd have like a personal coach or a PT, for example.
Yeah.
They're becoming more of a life coach at the same time, isn't it? Because they can do aspect of the training.
Yeah.
Is what they do that, but they also need to know what's going on at home, what other kind of influences are making them to make those kind of decisions as well. And you get some really good ones, and you get some really bad ones as well at the same time. So, I because of my background, I'm always interested in that kind of aspect. So having that 360 perspective of what you're saying makes a real big thing.
But here's something to kind of build on that. I studied nutrition at university. And I studied the impact it has on health specifically. I didn't study psychology. I didn't study how to become an osteopath. I didn't understand fully what biomechanics are in terms of how the body moves. So what we have is, we have psychologists as part of our team. We have injury rehab experts. We have nutritionists. We have life coaches that are all part of a team that work with the individuals. So rather than me just trying to guess my way through all these different areas, we just bring in a team that work with people. I think this is the thing where one person can't be everything. And I think a lot of PTs and a lot of coaches get kind of trapped in this thing where they think they're trying to be everything and they're not actually serving people the way they need to be served, which is why people go up and down, have yo-yos with their weight, with their attempts. They're in one month, they're out the other. Whereas what we're doing is building a whole system around the person. So you can't fail.
Do you think in terms of, you've been fairly open with your own struggles, what you've kind of gone through, and if you want to share what you want to share out of that's completely fine. Does that also give you kind of the unique perspective? Because elements of within your treatment or wherever you've gone through and how you got out of it, you still needed elements of all those people as well, didn't you? And so when you picked it up, I know you say you've got it as part of the team, but there's still a huge element of you driving it though, isn't there?
Man. 100%, man. What I think I've built here is what I needed when I was younger. And it's also what I need now, right? I think when you look at any really strong coaching company, that comes from a purpose. And my purpose is to help people find themselves, find their real identity and connect with themselves, so they're not leaning on distractions like drugs and drink and food and just watching Netflix series until late in the evening. They're actually doing something productive with their time. And I know you touched on it there, man, but I've got this unique perspective on life because of what I've experienced, going through depression, going through anxiety, trying to kill myself a couple of times. I now come out the back of that and wake up and realize how powerful waking up in the morning is, and what that means in terms of respecting the amount of time and energy that we've got. I think a lot of people still haven't had that kind of experience, so they're okay with wasting a day. They're okay with wasting a week. They're okay with wasting a month. I'm not okay with wasting time or energy.
This sounds a strange question, but do you struggle with forgiveness?
In what way?
Because for sometimes, if you're saying like, you can be very passionate and almost kind of aggressive in the action, which is not an issue, where we don't want to waste a day, don't want to do this. But sometimes if people have got issues going on, for example, and they can't do it, and they think tomorrow's a new day, I'm going to do it from there. Is it okay for them to kind of forgive themselves for like giving yesterday? I had an issue going on, couldn't do it from it, and start afresh, because we do go kind of up and down.
That's compassion, and that's something that you got to learn. And if you don't have it, and a lot of people in our community don't have it, because when were we ever taught what compassion meant? Like, has anybody ever sat you down and said, by the way, this is what compassion means, versus somebody sitting you down and saying, this is what maths is, and this is what a good career looks like, and this is what success looks like in terms of your house and your car and whatever it might be. Like, we're more inclined to talk about those things of what success is than learn what real compassion is. But compassion drives everything. If you're not able to be compassionate towards yourself, you're creating the yo-yo cycle for yourself. And I think once you learn compassion isn't just about writing off a day, it's starting to learn to address, well, what do I need in that day? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You know, if you've had a really difficult day and you can't get to the gym that day, or you eat a little bit more food that day, it's not about just saying, well, do you know what? I had a difficult day. It's learning from those experiences. Well, why did I do that? Getting curious. And then asking yourself, was overeating the thing that I really needed, or did I need some form of comfort? Did I need to have a conversation with somebody? Was I emotional and I didn't know how to let it out, so I ate the food to just block how I was feeling? So there's a completely different way of looking at it. And again, that allows you to make the most of every day, rather than just writing off a day or writing off a week because you're going through a difficult moment.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of food for thought, to breaking some the elements of that down. We'll probably come back to it in that one. I'm probably like kind of reflecting on it as well.
Yeah.
So, for those people who don't know much about your program, if you could break it down and just explain to people who are watching or listening what it actually involves?
Yeah. That's a difficult question.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm getting you to say it.
Do you know, I think the beautiful thing about the program is it's unique to every person that experiences it. But what we want to understand first and foremost is, what is your goal? And if we can understand your goal and we can understand your constraints, then we can build out a system that works and complements you. So there's no one size fits all program in terms of what I do. It's not just about calories and macros and hitting a certain amount of times in the gym, because that's two-dimensional. We've got to understand if you want to lose weight, if you said to me, Juggy, I want to lose my man boobs, right?
I'll cut that bit out.
But how did you get them in the first place?
Oh, fucking hell.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of Mackies.
Yeah, but then, okay, so it was a lot of Mackies, but then why?
Yeah.
Because what, were we time limited? We didn't know any better. I don't know about nutrition. I was stressed. It was the easiest thing. It was the most convenient thing. What was it that drove those behaviors? So now we're starting to get to understand, well, what do you need support with? Is it you need stress management tools? Is it the fact that you need education around nutrition? Is it that this isn't you, this is generally, right? Self-worth and self-esteem. So we don't see ourselves as important enough to create time for ourselves. So now we're saying, okay, now that we know how to take time for ourselves, what can we do with it? Do we want to exercise? Do we want to move better? Do we want to feel better? Do we want to have more energy? Why? Why do you want those things in your life? Because I want to be the best dad I can be. Because I want to run around with the kids and I want to play sports with them and I want to be the best role model that I can be. Because maybe I didn't have that growing up. And then we're creating this whole infrastructure around that. So not, like I said before, not just saying, okay, you want to lose weight, follow these calories, macros and that training routine and let's hope for the best. No, let's actually build something that's going to stick with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, because I saw probably one of your more popular clips where you were talking about when somebody talks about having a diet plan and having a diet, saying the word diet plan doesn't work because there's already expiry date. Yeah. And the word just comes in, it's not just what you're doing, that it's a complete lifestyle change, isn't it? So it affects every diet. It will affect every dynamic of your life, won't it? And you've got to be prepared to accept that as well.
Yeah, exactly. And I think there's certain elements that we're going to be comfortable with the fact that it's going to impact the way we look in our clothes, our confidence when we go to work, how we communicate, that sort of things. But some of the more difficult things are, as you're growing as a human being, you're going to have to leave a few things behind. So maybe you don't want to drink as much as you used to, but all your mates just know you as that guy that goes and has a beer every weekend or goes for a mixie on the Friday nights. And then suddenly that doesn't feel like something you want to do. And now you're having to evolve in the social area. It can become really difficult. Like transformation can be difficult.
Yeah, like a lot of my friends have made a few lifestyle changes, stopped the relationship. We were just talking about it just before we were recording about their relationship with alcohol changes. And I think they get to say, well, the body just doesn't react in the same way, and it forces you to change the way that it is. You know, you can't party for so long, you can't do certain things for so long, and it really either you listen and change, or change is going to be forced upon you.
Yeah, man, and I think that's the hardest thing is like, you know, from my side, I can see people on that slippery slope, and you just wish that people didn't have to hit rock bottom before they made the change. You see, I think there's been a shift more recently. Like I'll have more people in their 30s reaching out to me now saying, I don't want to get to 40 and then be prescribed these medications. Obviously, I'm speaking to a lot of people and coaching a lot of people in their 40s that have already been prescribed, you know, the usual metformins, the high blood pressure, they've got high cholesterol, they've got the usual things that we have in our community. But I do see that there's a bit of a shift in perspective as people are coming through their late 20s and 30s now from what it used to be.
Yeah, because I have this stat at work, which was, I think 70% of deaths between 40 and 70-year-olds are all preventable causes. You know, they're all lifestyle choices.
Yeah, man.
And you think, when you actually think about that, I think there was even some statistics of how waiting lists would be cut down if people drank the right amount of water. Yeah. Because it builds up on your immunity. Yeah. You said something earlier just about, you know, like pressure. As the face, and you know, and it's a brand, let's be honest, you know, like what you've done is brilliant. How do you deal with the pressure of keeping yourself, from an image point of view, you have to be in kind of top shape, because if you ate, then your program from optically doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
How do you deal with that kind of pressure, and you have to be kind of seen to be perfect as much as you can, but as humans we're not?
Yeah, man, I love this question. But it's not pressure for me. What I present on social media is me. So I don't have to live up towards anybody else's expectations. I'm living towards my own values. My values are really clear, and I've locked this in over the years and refined it further and further. Family, health, and growth. Health for me isn't looking a certain way, it's being capable of doing whatever I want to do. So if I want to go and play football on a Monday evening with the lads, if I want to go and take the kids' training sessions back to back, 2 sessions after another, and coach them all the way through it, and be involved in it, and like run around with them and all that sort of stuff, it's just who I am. So I'm not trying to present myself in a certain way because I want other people to look at me. I'm just being me. So there's no pressure involved.
Bloody hell, that's a bit deep. I need to sort that out. I need to get into that bit of that as well. But so in your experience now, because South Asian bodies are probably some of the worst possible bodies to be genetics to be done, because it's one of the slowest metabolic rates to kind of break down fats, highest kind of cardiovascular, you know, top of the tree for diabetes, all these things, like we're up there. It's really difficult to do. What's the most common kind of issues that people present to you with?
So these are symptoms, I would say, of disease, right? So diabetes, cholesterol, heart disease, all those bits and pieces. And unfortunately, and this is going to sound a bit harsh, unfortunately we're in a position where people just succumb to it. So you've got genetics and then you've got epigenetics. And epigenetics are your environment and everything you create for yourself. And your genetics are the things that are kind of sitting within you, waiting to be triggered. So if we've got a potential for diabetes, doesn't mean we've got diabetes. So are we actually eating well? Are we actually moving well? Are we managing our stress? Are we sleeping well? Are we drinking that water like you just said? Or are we doing all the opposite things? But bro, it always comes back to why. Tell me one person that you know that doesn't know that drinking more water would be good for them.
No.
Tell me one person you know that doesn't know that overeating jalebi on the weekends or every wedding they go to isn't going to be good for them. Yeah. Tell me one person that you know that doesn't recognize that exercise is healthy for them, regardless of what form it is. Everybody knows these things. So why aren't they doing it?
I think there's so many kind of like subtle. I mean, my background is within substance misuse, and we were talking about kind of the relationship with alcohol, for example. Culturally, really, really celebrated. When workforces and generations came over, you know, the pub was a communal area. Having drink and alcohol was kind of socially embraced. And the Punjabi community that I'm speaking for mainly really integrated into kind of British society and culture really well. I think generationally over time it's got worse, and then other substances have kind of have crept in. I think with alcohol, I think what we're seeing now is a lot less younger people going down that way. However, those who drink are the more chaotic. They're drinking kind of worse than ever. When you see somebody coming out with that kind of help, needing that kind of help, how do you kind of know the difference between what's easily kind of signposted or what's actually trauma? Because quite easily the issue can get put to one side because there's actual real trauma there that you've got to kind of address.
Do you know what I think? For me personally, because I've been doing this for 17 years, going on 18 years this year, when I'm having a conversation with somebody, when I'm really learning about them, understanding them, you can see the clues as to what's driven them to certain behaviors. So I'm sorry, I'm going to come back to this, man, but you know, we talked about man boobs earlier, right? But I said, like, because that doesn't just happen overnight. That's almost like consistent behaviors that take you away from the person that you want to be or how you want to look. It's the same with like alcohol, and it's the same with people that use food to cope with their stress and cope with their traumas. The more you start to understand, well, when did that happen? Why did you start leaning on these things? What was going on in life back then? What was different in life then to where we are now? then you start to recognize actually that is a trauma that's driving that behavior. Let's bring in a specialist to come and deal with that. That's the way I look at it. I can't help somebody directly fix their trauma or work on through their trauma, because that's not my background. But I have got somebody that can. And it's just matching the right specialist support to the challenges that somebody's facing.
Some of the challenges you could be facing, you have is, which voice do you listen to? So we were talking about, there's a thing around health literacy, isn't it? So for an individual, navigating through a health system, where do they go to get certain things can be really difficult. Working within a workplace is difficult as well, where to kind of get support. And then strategically, you hear the words NHS, you hear all these other sort of areas, it's difficult. Now you've got the extra element of where people are using AI and ChatGPT to get all their health information.
Yeah.
And I've seen you you had a post with, is it Eddie? I forgot his surname.
Eddie Abu,
yeah, Eddie Abu, that's it. What are the dangers of people getting their health advice from, I'm not saying just about him, but different influencers in that way?
Yeah. I think the danger becomes to really grow online, you have to have these kind of really opposite views, right? So you have to be really out there with an extreme. So think about the people that are biggest right now on social media. They have extreme views and they just throw it out there, see how many people kind of grasp onto it and hook onto it, and then they'll keep going down that route. So Donald Trump, he'll say something really extreme, get a lot of popularity on a certain tweet, and then he'll keep kind of posting towards those things. Eddie Abu got a lot of traction when he was building his social media account around processed foods. And honestly, initially, it felt like a really positive movement. It was like, okay, he's saying, let's be more mindful of having less processed foods. But then it didn't stop there. Then it became, you can't have processed foods. And if you have processed foods, you're going to completely ruin yourself. And then it became, you can't have the cultural foods that you've grown up eating, because then you're going to ruin yourself. And then it just became more and more extreme over time. So what I would say is, if you're on social media, just think, is this an extreme view? Is this polarizing one thing against another? Or is it something that I could actually see myself doing 10, 15, 20 years from now? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like if I just came out there and said, honestly, this supplement is the best thing ever, and this is what's going to help you lose 20, 30 kilograms in the next 6 months, I'd be able to sell that like wildfire. Yeah. It's harder to do what I'm doing, which is actually have a more balanced perspective of, this is you as a human being. Let's try and understand your values. Let's try and understand your identity. Let's try and understand why you do what you do, even though you know it's not serving you. That's so much harder than just plugging a supplement, man. Yeah,
I also kind of, it emphasizes the point where South Asian communities in general have really difficult relationships with talking therapies.
Yeah.
But when you're trying to make a lifestyle change, you really got to have that talking therapy with yourself. There's a difference of saying, weight loss. How important is it for you to lose weight? And then the killer question is, how confident are you of losing weight?
Yeah.
And getting that balance between it and getting that score right, it's fundamental to any lifestyle change as well. And the Liver King was another guy who kind of got caught himself out and stuff. I'm going to ask you one or two sort of questions, and then what I did uniquely for this one, because I did speak to a few people, and I asked them about subject areas and some questions to kind of ask you, really, and see what you could do from the best part of it. You see this real drive now for quick fad diets. I want you to talk about two in particular. One, which is around water fasts.
Yeah. And
the second one will be kind of Ozempic and Mounjaro as well. So the water fast, from my knowledge, is not eating any food, having very little electrolytes or none, and drinking water for 3 days.
Yeah.
And then the second one around Ozempic and Mounjaro is where taking injections or private prescription injections, and that has triggers something within your insulin levels, which basically does it tricks your body and basically saying you don't need to eat, and it's really quick and extreme sort of weight loss in that effect. Are you able to just tell us a little bit about them too?
I'll start with the water fast, and it's the same people that go on about intermittent fasting, and they talk about mitophagy and autophagy. So these are these processes within the body where it will help your mitochondria, which exists in every single cell of your human body, basically kill off the dead ones and replace it with new fresh ones. So then your body's working better, it's helping you create energy out of the foods that you're eating more efficiently and effectively. And autophagy is like killing off the dead cells so that you don't end up with things like cancers and all that sort of stuff. You can water fast, you can intermittent fast, or you can be in a calorie deficit, and it's the same thing. So why put yourself through an extreme when you can just do it in a very simple, basic manner, and you can also do it in a more consistent manner that you can see yourself doing again 10, 15, 20 years from now. And I think we jump onto these trends.
Bandwagon.
We jump onto these trends, but why? Because we maybe lack the knowledge, we lack the understanding, we were influenced by someone online. We don't fully understand how to manage ourselves, so we're looking for something external to help us. But again, it's just education. If you want to go and do it, great, go and do it, enjoy it, but there's no added benefit to that than just being in a calorie deficit.
Yeah, so I did it. So just, I did do it once. And it was horrific to start off with.
Yeah.
So it was classic, saw Dana White doing it, saw his change, and I was like, oh, okay, let's see this, let's see how it works. And the first day, all I was getting was pictures coming in my head, like Mixie and all these kind of, your brain was playing tricks on you in order to do it. I got through the first 24 hours, I was going to sleep, trying to kill the time.
Yeah.
But I was trying to lose weight before that. I was going gym, I was trying to do it, and I just really stuck. I felt like, when you hear it anecdotally, and it's backed by science as well, but once you go past a certain age, your body takes longer to kind of kick in. It just wasn't reacting the same way. And this was a real good Kickstarter for me. I managed to kind of see it through, and the last couple of days were a lot easier. First 48 hours were terrible, and got through it. Done it again, 6 months later, where I was doing intermittent fasting first, where I wasn't doing it beforehand, and I found it a lot easier to do around it. So I just wanted to kind of put it in there just in case anyone sees this and says, "Oh, you did it yourself," and that. I did see a bit difference as a kind of a Kickstarter to go down kind of a lifestyle change and your relationship with food. Is that? Am I one and the other one, or what do you think?
By the way, there's no judgment.
This
is the thing about health, right? Look at that Eddie Abu post that blew up on my social media, where he was absolutely killing off all of our dishes that we've grown up eating, right? And everybody on there was like, "Oh, so you hate Eddie Abu and you hate what he stands for?" I'm like, no, I don't believe in what he's saying because science says otherwise. And also, I've got 18 years of experience coming this year, where I've got client after client after client that still eats their cultural foods, still enjoys carbohydrates, and still gets into the shape of their life, like mentally and physically. So there's never any judgment. I also know people that would go into a really extreme diet and get great results off it and feel like they can sustain it forever. But honestly, hats off to them, right? All I would say is how much of it was, okay, I did it, and I needed to do that to give myself like a reset mentally to say, this is day one of the rest of my life. Okay, and if you did that and it gave you great results, I'm not here saying what fasts are the worst thing in the world. I'm just saying they're not necessary. Same with intermittent fasting. What we really create in there to lose body fat is we're creating a calorie deficit. Like that's all the science says. There's no additional benefits to it than being in a calorie deficit. So no judgment on what somebody needs to do to feel that way. Is an element of that placebo? How do we know? We'll never know. But if it's working for you, then I'm happy for you.
I've seen your body, yeah, like the way how it's
Yeah.
on there, and I'd be walking into every gym, giving it loads if I was
Yeah.
you. It's like, when you go and see, when you know what you know,
Yeah.
you're obviously in a privileged position because, like, you know, with your experience and stuff, and you always get the stereotypes in terms of, like, you know, loads of dissy guys just do chest in the gym, don't do anything else.
And
Like,
biceps.
yeah, or biceps or whatever. Yeah. What do you think are some of the biggest stereotypes that need addressing within the community?
I think one of the things is just that exercise is about losing weight, or exercise is about looking a certain way. Like, exercise isn't for that. Exercise is what you're capable of now doing. Imagine if you've got the ability to live an extra 10 years, but then also have an extra 10 years of quality life because you started lifting weights at this age. I would take that all day, every day. I was speaking to somebody in their 50s the other day, and she's going through menopause, and she broke all of the bones in her ankle. And it's specifically down to the fact that she's not done any weight-bearing exercises for like 30 to 40 years, since she was a kid at school. So we're more prone to these types of things, like injuries and like bones breaking and not being able to walk around properly when we're older. That's what exercise is for. It's not this, it's not abs, it's not big biceps. It's to be the best person you can be for yourself, right? And also, when I'm 70, I want to be encouraging hopefully my grandkids to be exercising and running around and playing. So I think the whole thing has got to come away from external, because what are we doing that for? Like, who am I in shape for? It's not for anybody else, man. It's for me. Because I want to look a certain way, I want to feel a certain way, and it aligns to my values. I want to go back to something you said earlier. GLP-1 medications, Ozempic, Mounjaro, that sort of stuff. These are medications essentially produced and made to save people's lives. Metformin was the same. It was produced and made to save people's lives. Cholesterol medication to save people's lives. But they've suddenly become this anchor in our community that we rely on to stay alive. That they were never meant to be that. Like, medication was never meant to be that. It was there to help people not die. So at what point in our lives did we decide, actually, I'm comfortable taking that for the rest of my life? Ozempic, Mounjaro, all these things are going to work for you in terms of weight loss and fat loss. They are going to have side effects. They are going to cause muscle wastage if you're not eating right, if you're not training right, if you haven't got the right lifestyle things in place, habits in place. And if you don't fix those things, then you're going to become reliant on the medication as a crutch. At what point did we become accepting of that in our community?
Yeah, I always struggled with that from when we looked at substance misuse in some ways, because that's like the only kind of comparison I could say.
Yeah.
We used to have, I think Punjabis, for example, are very, very much more medicalised in that way. Grandparents, I remember my grandma having conversations with other auntie and bibia saying, you know, I've got knee problems, and she would say that at the Gurdwara, they were where they were all getting together. Yeah. They were just sharing medications out, saying, hey, I've got a pink one for my knee, you know, for and then going to the doctors and demanding, look, she's got this, I need this, and the power in a pill, isn't it? Is everyone's thinking that there's the answer. I don't need to change anything. Yeah. There is a prescription, and I also believe that so many people have died from actually overdosing on different combinations of drugs that they've been taking. Because very rarely do people take things away; they always add to it. How do you have those kind of conversations where people have had a crutch to kind of medications and moving people from one stage from mentally from one area to the next one to making that change?
We work with the medical team. So if they've got a doctor, we advise them to tell the doctor that they're going to be looking more into their nutrition, into their health habits, into their training, etc. Because what we wouldn't do is just tell somebody, stop taking that medication now, and then demonize the medication. The medication's saving their lives. It's doing something. It serves a purpose. But then we can put all these other infrastructures in place. So eventually, even the doctors are like looking at their bloods and thinking, yeah, you don't need to take this anymore. We can take you off this, or at least reduce the dosage. But every medication you're taking is going to have a knock-on impact. So if you're taking metformin, that's going to deplete certain vitamins within the body that are related to your energy levels. If you're taking cholesterol medication like statins, that's going to deplete your CoQ10, which is going to impact your mitochondria, which is going to impact your energy levels. So these are the things that we need to take into account. If you start on one, it's very likely that you'll end up on another one, and another one, and another one, until you decide you're going to do something about it.
I did have a liver specialist on as well at one stage. They were talking about obviously the relationship with alcohol with non-fatty liver disease. But the other one was obviously not non-alcohol related, and said that there's an absolute bomb waiting to go off in that way. What's your opinion on that?
I've seen it, man. Like, this is the blood tests we get from our clients before we start coaching them. So we review their blood tests, and even they're like, I didn't know. I did not know I was that close to being in a disease state, or actually in a disease state to the point that we're sending them to their doctors so that they can let them know. Like, it's huge, man. And there's so many different things that are going off. The HbA1c, type 2 diabetes, I can't remember the exact number now, which is going to annoy me, but millions and millions and millions of people have got diabetes or pre-diabetes and just don't know about it. That's scary. Like, people in their 20s and their 30s that come to us, when they're doing their blood tests, they don't even realize they're in disease states. That's scary for me.
Yeah, I've got more into kind of smart apps and stuff, and for if anyone at Whoop wants to sponsor me, let me know, because I want to get the new one. And the data in there, and the big thing that I'm just jumping into some of the questions while we're on this roll. But as I've got older, the importance of sleep is huge, and cortisol levels. Yeah. I have a really bad sleeping pattern. Not that I don't go to sleep, I'm awake quite a lot of the night. I get very small batches of REM. So you recommend about 90 minutes of REM. I was getting like 23 minutes at sometimes, probably 30. And then I started taking magnesium more, and I pushed it to hour and 10. So nice. For me, that's a huge difference around it. Simple question: how important is sleep?
It's so important, man. Like, it's literally one of the anchors to your health. There's a really good study out there to say that if you don't sleep your full 6 to 8 hours and get quality sleep, you're likely to eat between 300 to 500 extra calories per day without really taking that into account, without really acknowledging it or even knowing that you're doing it, which is kind of interesting, isn't it? Because if you've got to be in a calorie deficit, but every day you're not sleeping properly and you're inadvertently eating an extra 500 calories, that's going to be pretty hard to do. Sleep is, honestly, it's one of the most important things, because then it's going to give you that ability to emotionally regulate, like have these conversations and be like cognitively focused and productive all the way through it. And just then the ripple effect of that, you're recovering better from your exercise, you're more productive at work, you're getting more done in less time, so you've got more time for yourself after work, you've got more time with your family, you're going to be more connected, you're going to feel more love, you're going to feel more happiness and fulfillment. And it starts with something as basic as just getting to sleep.
The one statistic, if you're not convinced from what you've just said or what you've heard, not having the correct sleep amount can actually reduce your life expectancy by 10 years. Yeah. And that was the bit where I went, I need to get into.
Yeah, man. Bro, do you know what as well? To improve your sleep, it's not like you need to be a rocket science to do it. Just some basic practices, like 15 to 30 minutes before you go to bed. Like, simply, I know this is hard for a lot of people, but not going on your phone. Maybe having an old school alarm, like, the ones we used to have growing up, having one of them plugged into the wall by your bed instead of having your phone next to you would make such a big difference. Because then even during the night, how many people wake up and the first thing they do is they pick up their phone to look at the time, and then they get sucked into it.
The notifications. Yeah, I had an Apple Watch, and I was obsessive on it, but the problem with the battery didn't last long. So I've noticed I've got a vintage Casio watch, nice, and it's changed me, because I was like, I actually only need to look at the time. I don't need anything else.
Yeah, man.
And it's not bright, it's not cane in my eyes. It's actually, it works pretty good for me in that as well.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to get into some questions.
Cool.
Oh, one thing before I forget. Eddie, we were talking about Eddie, took a lot of, there was a lot of reactions, and as the bigger somebody gets as an influencer or in your position of that you're in, you're always going to get good or bad comments that have come in, getting in there. What's the single biggest kind of, or you remember a time of backlash that you faced, and how did you deal with that individually as well, and then obviously from a health perspective?
Well, it becomes more and more unhinged as the week goes on, man. I don't see myself as an influencer, and I don't see myself in that light. But when people are attacking certain things, usually I think I'm doing the right thing. Like, I've shared a lot about alcohol recently, and it being an issue in our community, and how important it is to get the right help. And then somebody came out of the blue and started attacking me, saying, well, you shouldn't be selling your coaching based on somebody having an alcohol issue. And I was kind of like a bit shocked by that, because they were saying you should just send somebody to AA. But the amount of people that I work with that have got alcohol issues, that have been to AA and didn't feel like it was the right place for them, and didn't feel connected to the message in there, and didn't feel like they were getting what they needed out of it, which was then exacerbating the problem. So I just feel like social media did this thing for everybody where it gave them an opinion and a voice, and they could put it out there. But I don't think people really take the time to understand context of posts. I've got 5 seconds maybe to grasp your attention when you go on social media. And if I don't grasp your attention in the first 5 seconds, you're not going to listen. Then somebody watches 30 seconds of a clip and takes offense to it, just completely ignoring the last 18 years of my career and my life, and the fact that I've dedicated myself to this space and helping people. And they see one thing and make a snap judgment. Bro, all I wish that people would do online is just ask themselves a question: if I was to meet this person in real life and they were standing in front of me, would I behave the way I'm about to behave? The majority of the times, no. Would I maybe ask more questions so I can understand and be more curious and have a wider context before I make a judgment? Absolutely you would. So why online are you just so quick to put a snap comment and judge somebody? I don't get it.
Yeah, the alcohol one, it reminded me of a time where somebody was, they were taking advantage by speaking to vulnerable families.
Yeah.
And I was picking up a lot of calls privately of people needing help. And they were saying, you know, he would come down, charge 90 quid for a consultation, and then had a deal with a private detox unit to just send him there, and it was costing the family, you know, thousands of pounds.
Yeah.
I said, look, went on a few shows actually talking about this, but it weren't the fact that people were doing it. People have got a choice whatever they want to do. It was people taken advantage of, knowing that there were free services out there.
Yeah, man.
And if it doesn't work for them, you know, in that avenue, then at least then you've got that other option.
Yeah, man.
But don't tell people that this is the only option out there.
Yeah,
like,
man.
you know, AA works for a lot of people. It doesn't for some.
Yeah.
There's, you know, other harm reduction, mutual aid groups that work out. And I think all we've got to try and do is give people kind of informed choice, and you're allowed yours.
Yeah.
They're allowed theirs. But as you said, when somebody comes up to you, they won't have the same energy at all.
But from my perspective on alcohol, I've gone through a form of dependence with alcohol to the point that it completely ruined relationships. It took over my life. I became a completely different human being when I was going through that. Pushed my brother away, pushed my mum and dad away, pushed people that were close to me or my friends away, and I became very, very isolated at that point. Then I created a system for myself. I got the right support, I got the right help, and then I fixed my challenges and I worked on them. So I'm saying to people, you don't need to work with me. And in fact, most people that apply for my program, I'm very specific of who I can help and who I can't help. So for somebody that isn't ready to take on my level of help or what we do, I'd rather refer them to a service they're going to get the most out of. Why? Because what did I say earlier? I don't want to waste my time and energy, and I don't want other people to waste their time and energy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if somebody's got an issue with alcohol that I can't support them with, I would rather they work with somebody else. And equally, if somebody comes to me and applies to be on the program because they've been on other programs and tried other things and it's not worked for them, then I'll show them this is my strategy, this is my way of doing it. But it's across everything, right? Some people go and do Eddie Abu's diet plan that he prints off to thousands of people. It might work for you. And if it does, then I'm so happy for you. And if it doesn't, then there's another option out there. Come and have a chat.
Well, I'm going to get into some questions.
Yeah, man.
What is your opinion on complementary therapies or shortcuts, peptides, etc.?
I don't have an opinion, man. Again, it becomes that everything's got to be down to the individual.
Okay.
Are these going to be quick fire?
Yeah. This is fine. What's the hardest ethics decision you've made in your business?
In what way?
Well, that's all he asked me. I think he was trying to be smart with that question. Well, I think we kind of said it as well because, like, there's also a person. You said the human aspect of you. So sometimes I've got personal opinion on something, but outside I can't have that opinion because it's not the law of the land. I think a good example of that is around drugs decriminalisation.
Yeah.
Personally, you may believe in one, and out because of your job role that you can't really have that.
Yeah.
Is there anything like that that you do have an opinion that you're able to share, or you don't?
I think if I think about business ethics, it comes down to values and integrity, right? So when I think about ethics, I think about going back to that very basic question. If somebody's willing to pay me money, however much it is, but I can't help them, I don't want to take them on.
Well, that takes that question away. Yeah, it was, have you ever turned anyone away because it wasn't right for them? Okay.
And I'll speak more to that though, bro, because
for it.
There was a client that she's now working with us, but when she originally reached out, she was going through such a traumatic period with grief that it was not going to be viable for us to support her. The amount of psychology support she needed. So we referred her back to a GP and we showed her the pathway to get the mental health support she needed. And then 2 years on, she joined the program and she's absolutely smashed it. But if I took her on 2 years ago, just because I thought, oh, it's going to give me a payday, I would be in a position where not only have I gone over my own value of integrity, she would be in a worse position, and I would also lose trust and faith in who I am and what I do. You've said on here that your sobriety changed the way that your lifestyle and was a key catalyst in your bit. Have there been any sort of near misses or relapses that was close to going back then? And if so, how did you get over them? Yeah. Can we talk about sobriety?
Yeah, go for it.
I think there's a view that I've created a rule for myself that I don't drink alcohol. But it's only the last 6 months that I've had 0 alcohol. What I've done is I've worked on my relationship with myself, which then improves my relationship with things like alcohol and food and all those other bits and pieces. When I didn't realize how much of an impact this had, but this is going back about 9 years now. My son's 9 years old, he's going to be 10 in July, and we had a miscarriage. So me and my wife had a miscarriage between my eldest son and my youngest son. And it didn't impact me. As in, I didn't go to drink, I didn't return to that sort of stuff. I just swallowed it, bottled it up and carried on. Then my brother, his wife, had a miscarriage. And that completely threw me. It was almost like it happening to them, brought back all the memories of what we experienced. And I just literally spent probably about a week, maybe even 2 weeks, where it's just dark rooms, drinking alcohol again, getting through the day. And that's really difficult for me to admit and share. But it just goes to show that there's always got to be work done. Like, you don't just conquer something. It's like my mental health and depression and anxiety and all those sorts of things. I can't just ignore the fact that I've had that in my life. I've got to keep showing up. I've got to keep putting in the work. I've got to keep living towards my values. I've got to keep working on the things that challenge me the most. I've got to keep getting the right people in my corner to support me, so I don't go backwards and start utilizing these things as their anchors and crutches again.
I mean, that's firstly, sorry for, to go in that deep in terms of what you were saying, you and your brother, but I think it just shows kind of curveballs can come out of anywhere, 100%. And maintenance, the way that if you've made a big change, it's not just say you've done it, you've got to keep on doing it.
Right, sorry, can we stay on that?
Oh yeah, go for it.
Like, so when I was 24, when I kind of really worked on that relationship with alcohol, if my life just stayed the same, I would never have to really keep working on my relationship with alcohol, because my life just stays the same. There's no new challenges, no new responsibilities, no new duties, life stays the same. But as you're going through different life stages, you collect more responsibilities. So I got married, I had kids, now think about my mum and dad's health, I've got mortgages, I've got business, I've got people to help all around the world, right? So my stress is constantly going up. My responsibilities are constantly going up. The duties that I've got in life constantly go up. And if you don't keep addressing the fact that you've got to grow in order to stay on top of these challenges, you just fall back into this really difficult hole, and life becomes very overwhelming and very stressful. That's why I say you can't not grow. If you're not growing, you're dying.
Lord. I think I need to listen to this podcast myself about 4 times.
Is that a good thing?
No, it's a good thing, because I think you get into a phase where you say the right things, but you don't practice what you preach, isn't it? Yeah, you know what I mean? And that's where it comes to, it's a difficult one, because life is full of hypocrisy. I've been, you naturally, by doing podcasts, you put yourself out there, you probably are practicing your own hypocrisy somewhere down the line as well. And it's, things don't age well as well. You know what I mean? So it's important that you've got to keep moving, and if you're going to fall, you fall forward.
Yeah.
Let's see. Oh, I've done that one. I didn't even have a look at these properly. I just kind of wrote them down over the weekend and then said this is going to be it. Gotta get this. I want to ask one final question and then make sure that I get it right. That's it, I've got it. We said about, you talked a little bit about mental health, and there's, I think the word anxiety now gets used quite comfortably in a lot of circles, which is a really good thing to do. But there's still a fine balance of where you've got people's behaviour just coming under an easy way of just saying, oh, it was the mental health, and that's almost like a pass. Where do you feel accountability comes into somebody's growth and their lifestyle change?
Man, I literally had this conversation with somebody earlier as well. We can't get rid of the fact that we are absolutely 100% responsible for ourselves. I think the moment we start to say, I did this because of that, we're trying to relinquish that responsibility, and then that creates a bigger gap to doing something about it, because now we're a victim to the situation as opposed to in control of the situation. So anxiety is a really important term. I was diagnosed with clinical anxiety, so they gave me medication to manage it. If I, again, stuck on the medication and just kept taking the medication and didn't do anything about my mental well-being and the way that I was living my life and starting to align towards my values in life, I would have stuck with the medication, and I would have probably needed a different medication or a new dosage, and then I'm just trapped in this cycle. So if we're going to say it's anxiety, 100% it could be. That's what drove the behavior. But that doesn't mean it has to stay like that. Now we can say, actually, I don't want that to be my life going forwards. What can I do to manage that more effectively? And that's where we bring back control. We bring back responsibility. And the moment you do that, life becomes more purposeful and fulfilling, as opposed to just almost giving away your sovereignty to something else.
That is, I think, probably one of the most important answers that I've had on the podcast. It's a real big thing. I think it kind of related back to that forgiveness, compassion debate that we talked about around it. So coming towards the end of the podcast, and this is a space where I give the guest in terms of, is there a bandwagon that you want to jump on, a bandwagon you want to jump off, or is there anything else that you want to get off your chest? This is your space to do so.
Is there anything that I've said today that's like made you question something for yourself, or even me, anywhere you're like, that didn't really seem right?
I think having a person to talk to is vital, especially if there's a lifestyle intervention needed. So I think everybody needs to have that one person who they're accountable to, and that can be really difficult, because if you've got like a friend circle, and especially alcohol is probably the easiest example, that you're socially going out with them, you've been drinking with them, so you're to blame as well, or if there is any blame. And then it gets to a point where you've got to have that chat and you say, look, it's actually starting to get uncontrollable. It's not actually nice being around you. It's actually, it's having ramifications on your family, my family, and everything from it. And I'm trying to replay scenarios in my head at that point. But what happens if people don't have that one person? So I think we should have that one person. But sometimes when I've had clients before, they really struggle to find that one person because they've burnt all their bridges.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the answer is at that. That's the one bit that, from when you asked me, making me think, is like, what do we do with someone who's burnt their bridges?
Yeah. I burnt all my bridges, man. Like, I got chucked out the house. Dad didn't want me around anymore. Drinking excessively, came home one night, started a fight with my brother, started a fight with my dad. Dad absolutely clocked me with a beautiful punch, man, knocked me out. And I'm glad he did, because what would I have done? And then I woke up to my brother literally pinning me down, my neighbour holding my arms down, and my dad on the phone to the police. So in that scenario, I couldn't have burnt any bridges any bigger than that, especially at home. So what did I have to do? I had to find that person within me. So it wasn't just going to happen. I needed to get the relevant support to allow that to happen. But what had to happen first is I had to accept that I had a problem. And if you're not in a position to accept, then you're always going to be looking for somebody to blame. It's always somebody else's fault. You become this victim to the situation instead of taking responsibility of it. And I think that's when you get the opportunity to become your own best friend first. And it was only when I became my own best friend that my brother started talking to me again, my dad started talking to me again, not just talking, but trusting me again. Because you break a lot of trust doing those things. You become that person for yourself, then you can start building those bridges with the people that matter again. And then you start to attract that person into your life who can hold you accountable. That's my view on it anyway. It's not easy. Just because I said it in a couple of sentences there, doesn't make it any easier. It's a hard journey to be on. But you've just got to be accepting of the fact that it is going to be a hard journey and it's going to be worthwhile in the end.
No, I share that. It's a really good point, because nothing's going to come overnight. It's just going to be kind of harder, and you've got to kind of pick it back up. And that it's just, that was the one thing that kind of stuck in my head from it. That as well. That was useful.
Yeah.
Anything else?
Fucking summer body. Should we go for
go
summer
for
body?
it.
One of the things you introduced me about on this podcast today specifically was like the myths and the stuff that comes up around summer and trying to look a certain way and get into your suit or whatever it might be. The most important advice that I could give you about looking better, feeling better, and actually doing the things, following through on them, is not what do you want to look like, but who do you want to be? Like, who do you want to be? What's that person? What's that identity that you're working towards? Because if you can specifically outline what that is, you can reverse engineer it. So stop thinking about summer body or body for this holiday or body for this stag do, whatever it might be. Let's think about the individual, the human being that you want to be, and let's figure out what the best version of that is and then how to get there. Because it's not going to be a calorie deficit or intermittent fasting or whatever it might be that's going really hardcore, it will come off the back of knowing that person inside and out.
I remember one question I wanted to kind of go tell you about really, and then and get your opinion on. Kind of the wedding industry, kind of related to that bit. Weddings in itself are designed to be so extreme. Yeah, fair enough. Tick. We understand that. There's no shock horror. But like for a Punjabi wedding, you've got to have. You're getting extreme binge eating. So you're eating about 4 times a day in the morning. Then you've got at the reception, you're going for another 3-course meal.
Yeah.
In about 4 hours.
Bro, there's canopies before you go.
Yeah. So we've got that. We then got binge drinking in that time.
Yeah.
Which has already been probably happening during the week.
Yeah.
You've got suppliers who are working overtime with really low sleep levels.
Yeah.
Substances being taken from every aspect from there for different reasons. Yeah. It's kind of culturally embedded in us to be so unhealthy. How do you think what the starting foundation should be to try and change some of those mechanisms? I know we're not going to solve it right here now.
Yeah.
But you see it visually where somebody starts this and they're deteriorating. You heard the stories. You know what somebody's on. You hear, you see the size of people. You hear the stories of what's been going on socially. How do you think we can kind of move forward on that?
I think it comes down, look, for me, I'm just going to talk about my own personal experience, right? If I look back to when we got married, it's going to sound really bad, but only about a quarter of the people that were at my wedding do I still speak to. And you've got to remember that. Like, who are we doing it all for? Like, what are these big lavish shows for? What are we trying to prove with it? Man, if I went back, I'd just save that money for a deposit on a house. I'd just save that money. And I would still have had a good time, even if I invited just a quarter of those people. I think there's a bigger issue here as well. It's like you just mentioned, we're going to the Gurdwara to get married, yeah, but all the way building up to it, drinking in tents, drinking this, drinking that. Even the night before the pre-wedding party, everyone's hammered, and we're turning up to Gurdwara in that state. And I'm not an overly religious person, right? You can see that by my appearance. But I've got a fundamental problem with these things. But I also used to be that guy. So I think we've all got to just evolve our mindsets. Like, as a community, we need to start growing. We need to start thinking, what could those resources be utilized for? There's people that need help. There's people that need support. There's people that are, even students coming from India to the UK and being exploited. And we see that across the board. How many people could we help with these finances that we're putting towards things that genuinely don't mean anything the moment that day is gone?
I'm going to have to leave this bit here now.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100% spot on. 100% spot on. And the same, part of the same hypocrisy, talking about it, it's around that.
Yeah.
I just think that as we're evolving, support services, really, there's got to be something out there, because doing it so extreme, people are literally going to kill themselves.
Yeah.
It's too much.
Yeah.
Especially if you're doing it week in, week out, weekend. It is there.
Yeah, man.
All right, we'll leave it there. Anything else?
All right?
Yeah. Anything else?
I could talk all day, bro.
So just the final bit. How does somebody kind of get in contact with you? The last kind of any campaigns, any sort of plugs that you're doing? Please just take it away.
Yeah. If you want to get in touch with me, Instagram @The Indian Body Coach, Facebook, I'm still on there. TikTok, I'm on there. LinkedIn, I'm on there. My website, Juggy Sidhu, juggysidhu.com. It's all there, man. It's so easy to get in touch these days. The next thing that we're doing, so we ran an event in April for Unique Home Drillender. We raised around £6,000 for them with a Pain to Purpose event. We do that annually. It's really important that people start showing up to those events. Reason being is, it's not about your physique, it's not about a six-pack, it's not about building a $1 million company, it's about growing as a human being. That's what those events do. We're going to be climbing Snowdon on the 13th of September. That's going to be epic. We usually get a massive turnout for that. So if you're interested in being around really good people, learning from people that are growth-minded, then make sure you're looking out for the Snowdon climb, 13th of September.
Last one, podcast.
Podcast, Pain to Purpose, being released at the end of July 2025, just in case you're listening to this later on. But we're releasing that. We've got some incredible guest speakers lined up for it as well. I just can't wait to get it out there.
Yeah, so everyone, make sure you follow the podcast, get onto the socials. I'm sure we'll be doing this again anytime that you need to. Brilliant, and keep up the good work. And I would say that, you know, any message that you put out, you never know where it's going to end up. Yeah. So somewhere down the line, you'll be changing lives, whether you know it or not.
I love that, bro. Thank you.
All the best.
Nice one.
There you go.
Good.
So, how's that? All right.
I was happy with it, man.